Wow, it's been a really, really long time since I talked about Digital Foundry. Possibly because there hasn't been a whole lot of Switch ports to complain about. I don't think I've talked shit about them since the Wii U days. Honestly, I can't remember when I last talked about this. Talked about their active attempts at sabotaging Nintendo third-party ports. It's just, it's 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 straight up ridiculous to see people try and weaponize this specific channel against Nintendo all the time. Like, I would almost say that this is probably one of the big anti-Nintendo port channels, if not the biggest. The one that sort of exists to justify PC gaming. Because really, when you get down to it, like, the only reason that people can say that PC gaming is superior is because of this channel. I don't know, like, pretending that all PC games always run at like 60 frames per second, like, all the time, and like, oh, those inferior console ports. I mean, it's not just okay. So generally, what happens is that Digital Foundry tries to pretend that PC gaming is the ideal. Consoles, Xbox and PlayStation are not quite up to par with PC, and then like Nintendo is straight up terrible, like, all the time. They always try and push this narrative, and it never turns out to actually be true. Coming from someone who actually only plays on Nintendo games, like, I don't have a problem playing Nintendo versions of these games. As I've mentioned several times on this channel, I prefer it to Xbox, PC, and especially PlayStation 4, which is a complete piece of shit. Every time I come out and every time I see them bitch or whine or moan about something, these pretendos, these anti-Nintendo people, these Twitter warriors, really lashing out against Switch. Rich from Review Tech USA. Oh, how is Switch possibly going to handle next-gen games? I don't know. Will developers actually make a decent Switch port? And that's the thing that gets me. That's the thing that gets me all the time. The narrative that's been going on these past few years. People are complaining about the hardware, but not the games themselves, not the developers themselves. Like, oh, this wouldn't have happened if Nintendo made the Switch more like a PC. Instead of asking yourself, wait, gee, why are these companies who are releasing a game on a video game console releasing a lackluster port? Assuming that the port is bad, why are these companies not making a good video game, right? They instead rant and rave about the Nintendo console itself. Like, oh, if this was more powerful, if it had more specs, if it had more memory, this wouldn't be a problem. Like, they make it Nintendo's problem, even though they have nothing to do with the release of the game. You know what I mean? Like, why are you not going after the actual developer? I don't understand why so many people are just consistently making excuses for these companies. If you release a game on Nintendo hardware, it should be on par with other versions of the game. Like, there's no justifying this. Like, and I do think when next gen comes and it's not as big as a leap as past generations, we're past the point, I think, where more power equals better looking games. We are reaching the point, I think, where we can safely say that Nintendo games do look better than the competition. Like ARMS, Splatoon 2, Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey are completely gorgeous. It's only a matter of time until we see an end to this sort of a narrative that Nintendo games can't do as much as PC gaming. It was never true to begin with, right? it's really weird seeing people try and pretend that like, oh, Ocarina of Time, that wasn't as good as PC gaming. Like, no, it's just not true, right? At this point, I feel like right now the whole anti-Nintendo sentiment is really only present on message boards and among people who are desperately trying to sell you new consoles. That's my take on it. It does feel it feels completely different than it did 20 years ago. It really does. It feels like PlayStation has sort of lost a lot of their footing. They've lost a lot of their general appeal. It's only just a bunch of really a bunch of nostalgia-blinded fanboys at this stage. I would say I am just oof. It can't continue. It really can't. The Outer Worlds, from what I understand, has all of the content from the Xbox and PC versions. So there's really no pretending this version of the game is inferior to the others. And I wonder how long it's going to take for people to start refusing to support multiple gaming platforms. Like, again, I've been advocating for this for a while now. I'm not sure. Like, when did I start? Like, the start of the Switch generation. We need to get rid of multiple gaming platforms. We need one gaming platform, the Nintendo one. And you don't need a gaming PC. You don't need Xbox or PlayStation. You only need Nintendo and third parties to support them. That's all you ever need.